Yes, yes. Welcome, welcome one and all to the Daily Huddle. My name is Steele Greye. I'm your host for today. I'm always honored to be here among the higher thinkers of the world, as I like to call it. And this is a wonderful day because we are here. So I'm thanking that you are here as well. And before we get started with our theme today, because it's such a great theme, I'm going to give you a little joke that connects directly to our theme for today. And the joke is this. Two guys are speaking with each other, and one guy says, I am the best procrastinator in the world. There's never been anyone that procrastinates more than me. Trust me. And the guy says, and the friend looks at him and says, okay, well, let's have a contest on who's the best procrastinator. And the first guy says, just give me 2 hours and we can begin. Roll that tape.
I like it.
When we start, we go all the way here, O'bette. Yeah, we're in the box. So welcome once again, everyone. And you know, this is a high-powered room. We always got to speak to some people ahead of time just to feel the climate out a little bit. I love this part of the call because we get to see who's on the call and how they're feeling. And I'm going to start today with the woman who has the bright, milky white background, Tara Heaton, looking like an angel coming down from the sky today. This is amazing. Tara, how are you?
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I am the way I say I am.
wow.
And
if you could see this, wow. Amazing.
I can hardly, thank you very much. I am transformed. I would love to tell you all about it, but it ain't about me. So I'll leave you with that.
We'll reach out to you. I like that about you. Oh my gosh, you look like an angel. It's unbelievable. Next up, let's speak to Emily Gallmer. Emily, what are you grateful for today?
Probably friends and family.
I love it. I love it. Grand morning to you. Thank you for joining us. The virtue herself. Where are you?
Hi, morning. I'm right here this morning with all the Daily Huddle family.
Exactly. I appreciate you being here as well. And last but not least, oh, you know what? I clicked off on the other thing. I'm so sorry. I see this name. It says Kurtz Otter. I'm just being adventurous today. Who is that? Come through, please. And I would like to ask you, who will you hug today?
Kurt does not love to miss this meeting at all. So he has this AI bot.
Ah, isn't that interesting? An AI bot. Wow, spectacular. Well, Sorrel, who will you hug today?
I'm going to hug 10 people today.
10 people?
Yes, 10 people.
Yeah,
I've been on vacation and away on business, and I just miss my family. I miss my friends. So just watch out.
Hey,
if you come near me, you're gonna get a hug.
I am not afraid of hugs. I will take as many as possible, and I will give them back. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you so much, Sorrel. 10 hugs. I love it. So I am excited to invite our guest for today. I always am so grateful to have such powerful people in my life that lead me to more powerful people. So definitely our guest today is a powerful person, and she was led to me by one of my favorite people on the earth. And I want to tell you a little bit about her before we get into this great conversation. O'bette Jamison is a woman full of faith. She's warm, compassionate, dynamic, and insightful. These personal traits equip her to design and deliver programs in personal and professional development, drawing from her MBA to foster practical implementation and deeper integration of her impactful methods with her audience. O'bette believes we're all wonderfully made with the capacity, skills, and life experience to make a profound difference in the world. That sounds like somebody I want to be next to, for sure, for sure. And she's going to unpack the question today: what does procrastination have to do with stress? Please welcome to the Daily Huddle, Miss O'bette Jamison. Welcome.
Thank you, Chase. I appreciate the introduction, and definitely I can relate to Sorrel because I am a hugger. So I appreciate that question as well. Good to be here.
Excellent. It increases lifespan too. I read about it all the time. You want to live longer
Okay.
for more people. That's what they say. That's what they say.
I believe it. I believe it.
So you find yourself in this space right now, creating these programs and so on and so forth. And this question, what does procrastination have to do with stress? Can you open that up for us, or actually speak to how you have a connection with this question? How are you involved in this, or have you moved away from it and understood what the mechanics create?
Definitely. I guess just starting with the definition of procrastination, which I think is interesting because it is a noun that defines an action. And so it's that thing that we keep putting off doing. And so one of the things that, come to light with that, and this point in my life, Chase, is I was procrastinating putting off some things, and come to find out there was some things I should not have because it had some physical and medical complications in that procrastination. And so, that thought came to me as like, why am I procrastinating? And then a lot of the training that I do kind of stems up from those things that are subconsciously in us, put in us as our, as children, and we're growing up. So I just like looking deeper into what procrastination is, and then really the physiological impact of that in terms of the stress,
Right.
and how the body receives that. And so here I am.
Yes. I understand that. I understand that fully. Can you give us an example, perhaps, of the last time you procrastinated and you actually felt something in your temple being stressed? Like, I think it's important for us to understand each other's stories as it relates to that. So I'm curious, what has that been for you?
Just here lately, some of the time it could just be conversation day to day with my husband, where I wish I would have said something. And if I didn't say it at the moment, as I go through the day, there's the angst, there's the sweating, it's that inner feeling, if you will, that says I should have said something, or the whole if I would have, could have, should have, and all the regret that comes with not taking advantage of the moment, because then you go back, it's like, well, that was a lost moment. And so, just in the day to day sometimes.
Right. That you have these programs based on personal development, so on and so forth. In your programs, do you have something or an area that speaks to the procrastination, or do you weave it through the entire system? Like, how is it? I would guess that if you're creating programs, this procrastination is a major theme, because there are a lot of things that are going on with us. And I put myself in that category all the time, where we kind of are suffering from this this kind of lizard brain, where everything is trying to get to us at one time. You just start pushing stuff away. Okay, I'm going to deal with you today, or whatever. But it seems to happen all the time, really. I don't know a time when it doesn't, where the lizard brain doesn't stop.
Right.
What do you think about that? How do you connect with that in your program, or with people when you're just speaking with them? Do you have any like methods or things that you say, well, this is a good method, or like, this is not a good method? How do you deal with that?
It's interesting that you talked about the lizard brain and all the things that go on, because there are some critical paths. If you're in project management, if you're in psychology, there are those critical paths. And when you stop in the middle of that, then that's kind of where the stress comes up. And so as you're clearing all of these things out, you really have to kind of think about your thinking, because when you do that, that kind of removes the emotion from everything, and it allows you to think with some cognitive thought. And so, when I consider the training and development that I do, one of those trainings is ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences. And a lot of that training does really talk about, how the brain develops. And by the time we are, let's say, 10 or 11, we've kind of constructed our mental process. And so then as we go through life, things come up, things come against us. And so the subconscious mind is going to remember all of those things that we kind of developed at that very young age, unless we kind of backtrack and really think about our thought process to kind of move that subconscious thought to kind of a conscious place. And so what happens in that whole process of clearing out things, as you said, or the lizard brain, is really the initiative, if you will, to think slow. And I like Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow.
I have it right there. I can see
Yeah.
it.
Right, exactly. And so just really being mindful of that, not all the time, because I do believe that we are wonderfully made. And so, walking in that idea of self just really lets me remember that there are some things we grew up in systems. We have our nervous system in our body. We have the skeletal system. So we learned all of that stuff in grade school. And then you get into business and you know that there's processes and, I think, who was it? Was it the Philly team that was like, trust the process, trust the process. So learning is a process, if you will. And so when it comes to procrastination, when it comes to stress, our nervous system is going to generate that whole fight, flight, freeze, fawn idea. And then that's where the procrastination comes in, because we pause the process,
Right.
If you will. And then when we pause the process, when we're in that freeze state, we get all tense. And I like one example. I was reading a book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. And he talks about, I think it's the great image of, runners on a starting block, and you're kind of in that ready, and then you're in that set. But if the goal never comes, that whole freeze and procrastination, if the goal never comes, your body's going to respond to that. And so, the adrenaline starts to flow, and it's just a kind of a mess. And that's where the stress comes in. When we freeze in that process, we procrastinate, and then, stress kind of shows up.
Right. I'm glad that you touched on the subconscious perspective. Someone taught me a long time ago that two of the most critical times in our lives are when we wake up and when we go to sleep. And if we were to program our minds consistently, for example, before you go to sleep, one of my favorite sentences is, universe, show me how good it could get. Show me how good it could get around me and around my life right now before you go to sleep, right? And then when you get up in the morning, say things like, I'm alive, I'm awake. The possibilities are endless, right? Those are two wonderful bookends. What I want to ask you is, something struck me when I was reading your bio ahead of time, and that was the two words, practical implementation. If we take practical away from that and we just say implementation, right? Implementation is different for each person, right? So if I'm going to start a habit or go into something, whatever, I may write a list and go, oh, da, 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 da. And you might say, I just need to do these two things. And I'll be like, okay, when are you going to start doing it, right? I had this conversation with a friend the other day. We were talking about something, and she said to me, oh, I got to get my such and such together for such and such. And I said, when are you going to do that? And she goes, I'm going to get started later today. She didn't do that later today because I asked her. I called her later and I said, did you? And she goes, no, you know what happened was, and I was like, like, I was like, wow, I knew she was going to answer me that way because I know her. But when you say practical implementation, what is that? Define practical implementation.
So, how I define practical implementation, Chase, is really having a plan, something that you can really work. So if it's about, procrastination and understanding, all the things in terms of the subconscious that might be stopping us in that moment, for me, it really is asking the question, my feelings about this are
Right.
because I value this. And so for me, that's kind of a practical exercise because I really have to ask myself, why am I procrastinating? And so my feelings about this are, it could be any emotion. And so how do I capture that emotion and make it something practical?
Mhm.
And so for me, my value system, which is kind of built on my faith, it's built on me caring, it's built on honesty, it's built on me being authentic. It really is asking, okay, if I want to do all these things, if I want to be trustworthy, if I want to be honest, if I want to be authentic, that's the thing that has to lead me through that emotion. So if I tell you I'm going to be somewhere, even though I may not feel like being there, the idea or that practical part of me, that value part of me that says I'm dependable, that has to push through the feeling of I really don't feel like it today. And so for me, that's the practical application of something, really thinking about your thoughts and going a little bit deeper as to why am I procrastinating? Why don't I want to do this? And then who am I as a person? So
Right. You would agree, though, that practical to me might not be practical to you. That's the part I'm getting. It's very interesting how that people say that. It's just like, I don't know, someone would say to me, hey, you're going to get up and speak to 500 people? Oh, yeah, that's just what I do. They're like, there's nothing normal about that at all. And I'm like, well, for me, it's normal. You know, like that's what I mean that's why I asked you that question about practical implementation, because some people, it's not practical at all to implement something that pushes them in that direction. They don't even want to go there, right? At all.
Exactly. And I like the example that you gave, because even being on this call right now is not practical for me, because getting into social media and being live on a platform kind of goes against me, if you will, but I made a commitment. And so my values of, being trustworthy, being authentic, and being present, because I said I would be, overrides all the practicality of that. And so that's where the implementation part comes in. I think it really is about aligning things to your values, and that's how you implement the practical side of whatever it is you're trying to do.
Yes, absolutely. Before we open up the floor for some questions, because I'm sure there's some people that have some things they would like to ask you, can you give me an example or a little tidbit of a couple of names of your programs, like how they may loop into this topic, or in general, like one or two programs that you did just recently that someone can connect with you and maybe be a part of?
So there's a couple of them. The website is walkinginyourgifts.com, and I opted for that because I really do think that we are very capable, wonderfully made individuals. And so walking in your gifts, I think we all have that. And so a couple of the programs, if you will, in the trainings that I do is on adverse childhood experiences. And really what that does is it kind of takes us back to understanding what experience that we have had in our past that kind of cemented our thought process, cemented our mindset, and really how to walk through that and kind of deconstruct that, if you will. But it also allows us space to understand somebody else a little bit better. And so I appreciate that training. The other one is on mental health first aid, and it really does speak to what's happening right now in terms of all the challenges, the last few years, and how we've adjusted to that, and really kind of understanding. And really it's about awareness, Chase, those two, and really how you can approach someone and understand and build that empathy for others. And then Silhouettes at Noon. It's a journey with beautiful women who are reconsidering their life journey. And it really is talking about, living not in our shadow. And that point of day, which is noon, where you kind of, it's like a second, and you go from this morning to the afternoon. And so for me, noon is that time of specific concrete change. And so the acronym for noon being really discovering our nuance, who we are, what we're about. How do we optimize, who we are? How do we overcome the obstacles of those things in our past so that we can move on? And then really, how do we nurture our gift? And so that's Silhouettes at Noon. And so, yeah.
Excellent. One thing, and I invite you to challenge me as well. One
Okay.
thing that you've been procrastinating on doing in the last month.
One thing I've been procrastinating on doing in the last month is having a presence on social media. So I thank you for, having this space for me to
Excellent.
actually continue to learn, continue to grow, because it's something I'm of an age where I'm still pen and paper. I'm still pen and paper. And so, branching into hosting, I don't know, being transparent on a whole nother level is what this is. And it's a growth process for me. So I thank you. Thank you for the
Yes.
opportunity.
Welcome to the huddle. The whole world is seeing you now. That's amazing. And yeah, it's one of those things, small things to procrastinate, right? We'll get back to that. Let's take a question from someone. Let me see if anyone has their hand up. The angel Tara Heaton.
So funny.
I don't know this theme. I'm sorry, it's just that's where I'm at today with you.
I know, Tara. That's that's a lot to live up to.
Right?
I'm glad to meet you.
I'm so glad to meet you. And I am really, really passionate about this topic. And I, for a lot of reasons, but I want to condense it down and first say thank you, because I love how you said that your values kind of trumped your natural tendencies. And I just love that. That just shows me that you're a strong woman and that you keep growing. So thank you for that reminder.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
My question is about procrastination, because I've studied it a good bit. And I wonder if you've read any of Adam Grant and what he says about procrastination.
I read Adam Grant just recently, actually, Tara, just recently.
Okay, so help me with this then. All right. So I have learned that my natural tendencies, I'm very creative. So I can either sit down and write something, or I can go climb the steps in the town I live in and listen to Janis Joplin and come back and write the same thing. And it's going to be 10 times better if I go climb the steps and listen to music that inspires me first. That's a form of procrastination. I could have just gotten it done and been on to the next thing. So I've learned that helps me actually. But here's where I need help. I also have procrastinated doing my taxes, getting the stuff ready for the lady until it's just like, everything's on fire and I have no choice. So I'm wondering how you would guide someone in those two different areas of procrastination, where sometimes it helps you and sometimes it just makes you a mess.
It's interesting that you would talk about that, because, when it comes to procrastination, you going out and coming back feeling refreshed and more energized versus the whole tax thing. Procrastination, some may say it's about fear. Are we afraid of something and that's why we're not moving forward? And so when you're talking about taxes, sometimes that's a fear factor for everybody. And so, what are you trying to avoid in that? And so really thinking about
Paying them.
Exactly. Tara, we've had our grandchildren here. We have 16 grandchildren. We had 4 of them here during the summer. And what I could really appreciate, and this is a way to answer your question, is they have the great ability to show me who I am, because they ask those uninhibited questions that allows me to dig deeper into who I am. And so when I was talking about, ACEs and how we develop our kind of mindset at a certain age, it really is like, well, what is it about my taxes that I just don't want to do? And really going deep. And when I talk about the children, because, that 5 questions, like why, kind of go there. Like, what is it about these taxes I don't want to do? And just keep asking those questions until you really find out, like, you know what, either I'm prepared or I'm not prepared. And that kind of is a lot of the times the bottom line of procrastination. Do you really feel prepared? Or do I really feel prepared, if I can speak from first person? Because for me, a lot of times that's what it is, the unknown, what that's going to mean, what's it going to look like. But I can appreciate how you started, because I know I can go to sleep at night, and rest is a great part of the mind kind of, finding that creative side to find peace and then come up with an answer. So I can relate to you on both points there. But I appreciate the question. I don't know if I answered it, but
you did.
hopefully.
And in full transparency, I do know it's not so much about the paying them. It's that super detailed type of work that just
Mhm.
stresses my brain so much. I hate it. I hate it. If someone says you need to learn how to get into this portal and run this program, I just, it's more that.
And that's, that's a good thing. I don't know if you read Carolyn Leaf, but she's a neuroscientist, and she really does talk about our interpersonal skills. And we are kind of, gifted in certain ways and offended by certain things. And so if you're not really task oriented, which, again, being on this platform here, is not my natural bent, if you will. Doing taxes and creating forms, and as a business owner, doing what's it? My I give my stuff to my accountant, and he's like, "You got to do a better job." I'm like, "I know," but it's just a task I don't like. So I understand. It's knowing who we are, and then if we can give it to somebody else to do, then that's kind of what that's about. That really is trusting someone else to kind of help manage us, if you will.
Thank you. Great
You're
advice.
welcome.
Excellent. Excellent. Good information. Definitely good information. Anyone else? I don't see another hand, but I feel a question from someone. Doo, doo, doo. Interesting. Okay. You know, as we're having this conversation and we're speaking about procrastination and stress in particular, right? I always think about how we can procrastinate, but then while we're procrastinating, something actually does win in the struggle, right? So you can procrastinate on these 5 things, and then the one thing comes up and you do it. Is it because it's pressing at you less, or is it because you have so many things you have to do something, or you'll stress yourself out? Do you understand what I mean? Like you could
Oh,
have
yeah.
5 things you want to do, and those 3 in the front are like, nope, not ready to eat the frog, as they say. Not doing that one. I'll just do this one. I always feel like there's a certain amount of we'll call it serotonin that releases from the brain when you do that one thing. Like when you get it done and you go, why didn't I do that? That's just crazy. I could have done that last week. I did it. It's done. It's finished. Why didn't I do that? And that's when I think we realize too much stuff is in the way. Got to clear it out. If that one stupid thing you did, it took you 5 seconds, why didn't you do that before? I deal with that a lot in my brain. And I wonder if, I think the one of the best things is lists. When you write that list down and you look at it, you get tired of not crossing it off, I make lists probably 4 times a week. And that's one of my greatest joys, to see that list, see that line through that thing, you know what I mean, that you're supposed to do. Do you do
Yeah,
this at all, O'bette? Do you ever,
I
write?
do. I do. And there's this whole decision matrix, and you can be in that block of, what's important and what's urgent, or you can be down here in this block where it's not important, not urgent. And so if we sit in that not important, not urgent for too long, particularly when we're
Right.
procrastinating, something's going to happen. So we do need to start pruning some things, as you say. If you make the list and you start pulling some weeds out, pulling those things out, then you do find some relief. If it's
It
like out in
fades.
my garden, it's like, oh, I need to just get rid of some stuff. And then it just looks so much better when you put something and you take the task at hand and you get rid of what's unnecessarily there. And then you can kind of, be at peace. Because again, at that starting block, if you freeze in that moment, then you still have all of this adrenaline flowing. And
Right.
the homeostasis state of that immune system, the adrenaline system is going to override the immune system all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And
Right.
so, pruning and weeding out those things, it does kind of settle you down and give you a little bit more peace. Accomplishment, if you will. We could just
Yeah, of
chalk
course.
it off to, I've accomplished one thing today.
Right. Nature wins again. Almost all personal development lessons that I have, I can go back to nature and make some sort of connection to that. Isn't that interesting? Like just
Mhm.
mow the lawn, get those weeds out, make everything clean, Oh,
Definitely.
great. It's so great. So I don't see any more questions, do I? No? Okay. We are gonna make our outro right now. I didn't ask you this already, but do you have a book that you could recommend that talks about procrastination? If someone wanted to just read a book on it, what was the one that you mentioned Adam Grant before, but I didn't hear a title. What was that title?
Oh, Tara, what's the title? I just read it, but I don't remember the title. I'll get it to you.
Okay.
But you know what I've been reading here lately, Chase, because as you introduced me as a woman of faith, I was reading Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by David Stoop. And what I appreciate that is he, you know, he is a neuroscientist, but he also aligns the science to nature, if you will, to biblical scripture. And for me to be staying grounded, I needed that because I'm like, okay, I'm getting really over here in the science, but I really need to stay grounded in my faith.
Right.
And so his book kind of aligns that. It keeps me totally aligned so that I can make reference to, you know, renewing my mind and, you know, all the scripture that speaks to, you know, being wonderfully made, renewing your mind, all of those things. So that's kind of where I am now. And it's an easy
Okay.
read. And it's, yeah, it's an easy read.
Good. I'm gonna look for that, and I'm gonna go into that Adam Grant. I wrote that down, and thank you for those
Gosh.
2 words. Decision
Sorry, I
matrix.
can't remember the title.
That struck me when you said decision matrix. I don't know why I wrote that down in my notes, so I'm gonna work on that myself. So we definitely thank you for being here today. We'd like to have you back again another time. We have so many things to discuss, I'm sure. So
That was
thank you
quick.
for being here, and it is quick. I know it's like a sweet kiss from your partner. Oh, gotta go, honey. That's what we do. So, as always, we end our wonderful time here with our tenets, the tenets that we hope that we can all live by to the best of our ability. The first is to live out loud a little bit more than you are right now. Get some things out into the universe, right? Love harder if you can, and I know we all can. Move your body, because the movement of your body is definitely a wonderful gift in so many ways. Those who don't move a lot will tell you how they feel, and it is definitely different, right? Also, give of yourself more, because we all have a lot of gifts that others can benefit from. And I believe if we give more, we spread this vibration out to the world, which is definitely what I concentrate on doing each and every day. Also, the sleep, man, oh man, more sleep, a minimum of 5 or 6 hours, maximum 8 to 10. You're like a being from another planet. Please, please sleep more. Also, eat mostly plant-based, because the plants are what's making this whole thing go, in my personal opinion, right? Nature, always nature. Just give it a shot to eat a little bit more plant-based, right? And of course, stress less, because when we stress less, we open up those caverns of possibilities, and we're again in movement so that we're not as stressed as possible. And lastly, we all know this very well. Please check yourself before you wreck yourself. You know how it goes. Thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate you. I am Chase Steele Greye. I will see you again next Tuesday or tomorrow, whatever you choose to do. Be the best you can be. Have a great one. Peace.
Thank
Think
you.
Again by Adam Grant.
Thank you, Miss O'Bette. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
this day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.